dark reaction stage. Now, the dark reaction. This dark reaction stage is called dark reaction because it does not require light energy to take place. I've told you, and you should always remember, it is called dark reaction stage, not because it takes place in the dark, but because it does not require light energy to take place. That is the first thing that you should note. Now, secondly, carbon dioxide is reduced by combining with two atoms of hydrogen to form sugars. You know, in the initial reaction that we have looked at, we define photosynthesis as a process whereby chlorophyll in plants is used to combine carbon dioxide with water in the presence of sunlight energy. So we have dealt with what happened to water in the light reaction stage. We are now dealing with what happened to the carbon dioxide in this dark reaction stage. Now, in many of your textbooks, you see this dark reaction stage being written as the Calvin cycle. You see it as Calvin cycle. Calvin, cycle. Because it involves a series of cyclic reactions whereby, energy is extracted. Food is extracted from these precursors that have been formed. Now, the process of combining carbon dioxide with two atoms of hydrogen to form sugars takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast. Now remember, the light reaction takes place in the grana of the chloroplast. This dark reaction takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast, and it uses the ATP generated from light reaction. Remember that in the light stage that we described, ATP molecules, is formed. ATP molecules is what? Is formed when ADP receives hydrogen to form ATP. Now, the reaction that takes place in the dark stage is illustrated below. The carbon dioxide takes up ATP, which was produced in the light reaction, and it is used to form the carbohydrate. So the CH2O is the carbohydrate. The CH2O is the carbohydrate, and is the simplest, unit of carbohydrate. In carbohydrates, one atom of carbon combines with two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. So when you have one carbon atom, you have two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atoms. The very first stable form of carbohydrate is the starch, where you have C6H12 and O6. So what we are saying is that the carbohydrate that is formed has 1 unit. When it is 1 unit of carbon, you have 2 units of hydrogen, and you have 1 unit of oxygen. So when we translate that one down here, you see that when it is 6 atoms of carbon, you will now have times 2 of that. You have 12 atoms of hydrogen and 6 atoms of oxygen. Then we move from here to factors affecting photosynthesis. There are about 7 main factors affecting photosynthesis. And what do we mean by factors affecting photosynthesis? Factors that will determine the rate at which photosynthesis will be taking place. If these factors are available at a particular level, they will hasten the formation of carbohydrate. But if they are low at certain level, they are going to slow down the rate at which photosynthesis is taking place. The first of these factors is the light intensity. When the light intensity, that is the radiation of the solar energy from the sun, is high, it will hasten, it will increase the rate of photosynthesis. But when the light intensity is low, when the light is dim, the rate of photosynthesis will be slow. Number 2, carbon 4 oxide. If we have a reduced amount of carbon 4 oxide in the atmosphere, then because the carbon 4 oxide is a raw material for photosynthesis, it will slow down the rate of photosynthesis. And when we have abundance of carbon 4 oxide in the atmosphere, then the rate of photosynthesis will be high. The same thing is applicable to water. It is expected that during dry season and when we don't have much water, it is going to slow down the rate of photosynthesis. But during the rainy season, when there is abundance of water in the soil and water is readily available in the leaves, photosynthesis will take place, at much faster rate. Then temperature. Since the process of photosynthesis is governed by certain enzymes. Enzymes are sensitive to temperature. So the optimum temperature necessary for the operation of enzymes is also necessary for proper, running of the process of photosynthesis. Enzymes operate best at certain temperature. So if temperature is very high, it's not going to make the enzymes to work optimally, to work well, and that will slow down the rate of photosynthesis. But when optimum temperature is available, the enzyme will work well, and that will, increase the rate at which photosynthesis is taking place. Now, the rate at which photosynthesis is taking place is noted by the, amount of sugar that is formed each time in the leaves of the plant. Now, let's all look at another factor, which is chlorophyll concentration. Number 5, the concentration of chlorophyll. Since this photosynthetic process depends only on the concentration of chlorophyll. If we have very few chlorophyll in a particular leaf, then the rate of photosynthesis will be slow. But if we have abundance of chlorophyll in a particular leaf, the rate will be high. Another factor is concentration of oxygen in the atmosphere. Concentration of oxygen in the atmosphere. Now, whatever happens, if oxygen is more than the expected value in the atmosphere, it has been known that abundant oxygen in the atmosphere, tends to compete with carbon 4 oxide for its binding site on the chloroplast. Since chloroplast absorbs sunlight energy and takes in carbon dioxide and water, in the presence of a large amount of oxygen, there is a competition which will not allow sufficient carbon dioxide to enter into the leaves so that the process can continue. So if you have high concentration of oxygen in the atmosphere, it will slow down the rate of photosynthesis. Now, another factor which is very important is the presence of inhibitors such as herbicides. When we spray herbicides inhibit enzymatic reactions, and when enzymes are obstructed, they could even be denatured. Denaturing of enzyme means they are destroyed. So when enzymes are destroyed, by herbicides or any pollutant in the environment of the plant, that will really slow down the rate of photosynthesis. Finally, in our study for now, we want to look at importance of photosynthesis. Now, why are we studying photosynthesis? What is the importance of this process to plants? And do we have importance, or is this process also important for non-photosynthetic organisms like animals and so on? These are the questions that this subtitle answers. Importance of photosynthesis. Now, let's look at them one after the other. 1. It converts the sun's energy to energy stored in glucose, which is useful for living organisms. Now, photosynthesis is a medium through which the solar energy or light energy of the sun is converted to chemical energy in food and stored as glucose. And glucose is now useful for living organisms. 2. Another importance is that glucose obtained from photosynthesis is the starting material for synthesis of proteins, fats, oils, and vitamins. Now, the glucose is an example of carbohydrate. So when we say carbohydrate is formed in the photosynthesis, we are also saying that glucose is formed. Now, glucose that is obtained from photosynthesis is the starting material for synthesis of all other food nutrients like proteins, fats, oils, and vitamins. So the carbohydrate formed in the plant, first of all, is used as source of energy. And it is also used as starting material for synthesis of proteins, fats, oils, and vitamins. 3. Energy produced by photosynthesis forms the basis of all aquatic and terrestrial food chain. Now, as one organism depends on the other for food and for survival, we say a food chain is established. Now, the energy produced, that is, the solar energy that has been transformed into chemical energy in food in the plant, is what forms the basis, the foundation of all aquatic and terrestrial food chain. You see that all living organisms depend on photosynthesis. Now let's look at more importance. Number 4, oxygen, which is a byproduct of photosynthesis, is necessary for aerobic respiration. You know that in the light reaction, when water is splitted, oxygen is given off, or we say is liberated. That oxygen that is released from the leaves of plant during photosynthesis is, important for aerobic respiration. We all know that aerobic respiration is respiration, that take place using oxygen. So that oxygen is used, available to plants, available to animals for aerobic respiration. Number 5, photosynthesis purifies the atmosphere by the constant removal of carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide must not be too much in the atmosphere. In fact, when it is too much, it is able to, bring about further reactions that is going to affect living organism. So, because photosynthesis removes excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, we say it purifies the atmosphere. That's an importance. Number 6, energy transformation by photosynthesis is the source of many vegetable and organic products. For example, wood, paper, cotton, and so on. Now, what we are saying is that the process of photosynthesis gives room for the production of parts of green plants that could be used by man as organic products. For example, it is the photosynthesis that has all green plants to develop. And when they develop, they give rise to vegetables that we take as food. Not only that, they give rise to organic products such as wood. They make the plant to continue to grow. When there is secondary thickening in woody plants, in trees, they produce wood, which are used for a lot of things. We derive paper, we derive, cotton, which are used by man for various purposes. Number 6, animals and non-green plants, that is heterotrophs, animals which are not photosynthetic, and non-green plants which are not also photosynthetic. They are heterotrophs, and they depend on green plants for food, so they cannot survive if photosynthesis will not make plants to do well. So photosynthesis helps plants to survive, and the survival of plants now provide food for animals and non-green plants. These are, the importance of photosynthesis. So, in other words, photosynthesis is a process that takes place that helps all living organisms to survive, and it takes place particularly in the leaves of green plants. So, the organ of the plant that is involved in photosynthesis are the leaves of the plant, and the part of the cell of plants that carry out photosynthesis is the chloroplast, which contain chlorophyll. By that, we have come to the end of this class, and I will counsel you to read further on this and attempt the following assignments. Number 1, tabulate any 4 differences between light reaction and dark reaction stage of photosynthesis. So draw a table: light reaction, dark reaction. Identify 4 differences between these 2 reaction stages of photosynthesis. Number 2, state the source of oxygen liberated during photosynthesis. Number 3, what is the fate of the carbohydrate obtained from photosynthesis? What is the fate? What will it do to plants and animals? And these assignments you are expected to submit to my email enochdo24@gmail.com. Then the deadline for submission is the last day of June, which is 30th of June 2020. See you next time. God bless you.